2 murders yesterday and another 2 today. So there are a number of families that are in mourning, and I want to take this opportunity to offer them my deepest condolences on the sudden loss of their loved one, their colleague, their friend. Those families who are also mourning by the loss of a family, a friend, a loved one by natural occurrence. That is never easy. It's something that we can never seem to understand or appreciate. It really tore at the heart, and I know that there are many persons who are in mourning and angry tonight. Webbo, I want to also say to the general public and to those who are celebrating, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, happy birthday. And they can have a celebration, even though the Federation tonight is a bit sad, down. There are a semblance of anger throughout the Federation. But I hope that those who might be celebrating, whether it's a birthday or some accomplishment, that they can do so with some semblance of enjoyment. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am certainly looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at Fun Radio, and to everyone who linked with this program by the various means available today. I say good evening to you, to my special friends home and abroad, my good friend Osborne Liebert in Connecticut, my friends and my children in Toronto, Montreal. I say good night to you guys. Of course, I agree with Mr. Brand. The Federation is under a dark cloud tonight, and I do hope what we have to say tonight will bring about a better feelings to the hearts of many. I suppose everyone would like to play a role, and a positive role, in what is taking place. Well, I'm happy to be here to take part in a conversation that I hope would bring some sort of solution to the various problems that we are facing. But we must not forget the beautiful island in which we live, the beautiful parts of the world in which we live here in the Caribbean, in particular in Nevis. It is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I enjoy it so much, and for it to be contaminated with what is taking place as it relates to crime, it's very heartbreaking. Webbo, I wish we can arrive at some sort of solution, and of course nothing else can be said. We are just waiting for actions, and I suppose it starts with the man in the mirror. Webbo, I'm happy to be here tonight responding to your invitation once again, and I'm looking forward to a healthy debate tonight.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the listening and viewing audiences. Good evening to all those who religiously listen to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. Well, we are, of course, the nation is mourning. We all are mourning. And based on what has transpired over the past 48 hours, we must begin to look seriously at harnessing this menace. Harnessing this menace, it is a tall order. However, we must not throw our hands in the air and give up. We still have to forge, fight our way through, going forward with the hope that we could produce a better nation for the future. One person came by today and told me that the gentleman, the Rastafari, who had been gunned down, is a peaceful man. Of course, we know that the ailment of grudge, bad mind, envy. These are diseases. How do we cure these diseases? It's based on counseling, church, and all hands should be on deck with reference to this menace. How do we get all hands on deck? It is rather difficult to get the younger generation into church, but we must not just throw our hands and say it's an impossible task. We must continue to try. My mother brought me into the church at a very, very early age because I was christened, confirmed, and served in the church up to the position of thurifer, or one who carries the incense. At the same time, I believe firmly in the church, and I'm wondering, where is the church in all this? I have not heard recently the clarion call from the churches. Many are in our federation, but we must continue to have that clarion call, make that clarion call for us to become a better nation. Sure, we do have church services which would symbolize that we are a Christian nation, but at the same time, are we doing enough? No. The evidence shows we're not doing enough. I have offered in the past a solution, and like I said, I would be repeating myself, but I still would. There is a core or some remnants of what is left of the peace program. We must go back, find out exactly where we went wrong with that peace program, and try and find the better elements of that peace program and utilize it for the upward and forward and betterment of our tiny nation, twin island nation. At the same time, where do we go from here? We must continue to pray earnestly, fervently, ceaselessly, and I believe at some point in time the Master, the good Master, would hear our prayers. Well, I'll leave it there for now.
Well, Mr. Stanley, I acknowledge what you're trying to say, but and of course you're speaking to truth, I suppose, and I'm for one who feels like doesn't matter what the institution, the orientation of the institution, once it can make an individual a better person, I would endorse and encourage individual to be a part of that institution. The church exists, numerous church in Ireland, in Nevis, and they continue to do what they're doing. I cannot say that they're not doing sufficient. They're doing what they're doing. But to me, it doesn't take, sometimes we tend to feel like only the churchgoer have hope, or only the churchgoer can set a good example. Within the church, there's a lot of things that's not worthy to be in the church also at times. And but it looks to me like, as I said, what we are saying tonight, I'm sure it's been said before. And I point to the fact that change would start with the man or the woman in the mirror. What change are we talking about? Maybe a change that people start to feel more safe, more secure, more wholesome, more incorporated, more part of an equation. I keep coming back to that because it doesn't matter what. If people are dissatisfied, they will do things that they think is an act which would probably make them better off even for a short term or what. I think there's too many things we got to deal with if we are to really impact or break the backbone of this trend. I am not a professional at all, and that's why in that respect I'm not a social worker, but I feel, and you always point it out, Mr. Stanley, you say you wake up in the morning and you say you're gonna do good today. Sometimes good is difficult to define, Mr. Stanley. Because whereas you say you might do good today, you might be in support of a government or a country that is doing evil. I'm not sure how that would pan out in the end. But I do believe we got to put stronger emphasis on ourselves and what we can depart onto people in these little communities. It makes no sense to drive around your glass up and don't dabs the people at times, and to make them feel that you feel like you're exclusive. We are one people, and that must be demonstrated in every way, even by some of us or some of them who feel like they are on a different social class or they are part of the elite. I believe we can do more if we reach out. And when I say we, I mean we, the more fortunate ones, I suppose, or we, the more contented ones, we the ones who seems to have a clearer understanding and have proven to ourselves that we are strong enough to help someone. It starts with the man or the woman in the mirror. And I say no more for now.
Webbo, Mr. Stanley asked the question, where do we go from here? And I think Mr. Stanley also stressed on the importance or the role of the church. But I believe, Webbo, that we are all well aware that we have been at this point before. We have been down this road before. We have been at one point being called the murder capital of the world. So we have been at this point before. I think, Webbo, that once again we really have to look at what worked and what did not work. Again, Mr. Stanley spoke about the church, and I believe that while the church is important in its role, and while the church is critical in ensuring that it gives and it sets certain moral instruction, that the whole of society as well needs to be involved. I think there is a critical and important role that the home must play. There is a critical and an important role that our homes must play. Our schools, with all of the challenges that they continue to face, trying to educate our children, they too face challenges, but they also have an important role to play. All of society, our various businesses, civil society, all have a role to play. It's a all hands on deck approach. And while we are dismayed, and while we are upset, and while we are shocked over the 4 murders within 24 hours, we have to look at ourselves and ask the question: have we fallen off so badly in recent weeks and months that we are now spiking again. The Prime Minister would have made an address this afternoon, and while I was expecting more from the Prime Minister, he outlined a number of initiatives which I feel can help, but I feel that we need to go a bit further. He called upon the citizens to cooperate with the security forces. Cooperate in the sense of trying to provide the necessary information that would lead to an arrest in these various murders here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. He spoke about increasing the number of security forces in our various communities. I think that we all recognize that community policing is a critical part in ensuring that we see a reduction in crime. He spoke about further engagement with regional and international experts to work along with our forces. And we have had here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis external and regional experts before that have sought to help to quell this scourge of crime in our community. So we do have, to some extent, a template which would have worked before. We do have some initiatives which I feel would have brought some serious reduction in the level of crime and criminality in our community. The Prime Minister spoke about the expansion of the CCTV program on St. Kitts. This is an initiative that we have been expanding on the island of Nevis for some time, where we continue to see coverage throughout the island. And I feel that while that is important, the request to cooperate and to share the necessary information with our security forces is absolutely critical. So Webbo, I feel that, as Mr. Stanley indicated, the church is important, church is critical, but I feel that there is a much wider scope and a much wider spectrum as it regards to all of society needs to be involved, because crime does not necessarily only directly affect those who are directly impacted. It affects the entire communities. It affects the entire community, the entire country. It tarnished the image of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I feel that while there are those who are directly impacted and are feeling the brunt of the pain and the anger and the suffering, it actually affects the entire spectrum of our community. And it therefore means that the entire community, all of society, would have to, and the Premier would have released a statement also on this matter. And one of the things that the Premier would have said, there is really no time or no need to blame or finger pointing and things like that. It is the responsibility of all of us, and all of us need to work together to try and remedy the situation, Webbo.
Well, I feel very strongly that we have to find the solution. There are people in our community or in our communities that are bent on the destruction of our society, and it's not a big group, just a handful of people who are engaged in these criminal acts. I mean, let's look at what happened at one of our business places, an icon business place. And when I heard of that, I said, these people, the owners or the operators, They don't need to be in business any longer. They've been in there long enough to have made enough and to say, I am not going to risk my life just to keep this institution going. And as a result, I do not know exactly what the dynamics are, but they have not reopened. And as I suspected, the owner, who is a personal friend of mine, I haven't spoken with him, but I feel that he has concluded that there is no need for that business to continue to go forward, to provide employment, to provide income for those employees, to provide taxes to the government, and also as a beacon of moral standard, a beacon of business activity, a model that could be emulated. And I said at that juncture, when I heard the terrible news, that these people, they don't need to go any further. I hope I'm wrong. No. I have a little piece of land right on the waterfront. And when I looked at the closed circuit video, a truck pulled in, went through the fence, came back out, went back in, and came back out, and took a part of the fence with it, brought it onto Main Street. There were two other persons who came and assisted in dismantling the fence, part of the fence, from the bumper of the truck. I can't tell you exactly what the investigation, which is ongoing, would reveal, but I hope it's nothing malicious. At the same time, people saw me many years ago having acquired that little spot on the waterfront, and right after, a certain amount of debris was deposited on my land. Well, let me leave it at that. Let me leave it at that, because I do not know where the investigation is going to lead. But seemingly, I have not a sort of thing. But maybe I wear too nice a suit of clothing. Maybe I speak proper English, proper grammar. Maybe it seems I have a little more than the average, and this may have rubbed some people the wrong way. I mentioned on this program some of my signs that have been taken up, and they continue to take them up. You know, all I could say to everybody, there is an opportunity here in Nevis, one of the best places to be. And if you really want to earn a living, pull up yourselves by your bootstraps and do as the good book says, by the sweat of your brow
You shall eat bread.
you shall eat bread. Don't be offended by Edric Stanley's persona, as the case might be. There's plenty of room in this arena for anybody who wants to be like Edric Stanley. So I'm appealing to those who may have certain warped minds just to follow the dictate of the good Bible, the good book, by the sweat of your brow, because at my age I'm still working. At my age I'm still working.
Yeah, but not to cut you off, but you said the people at the iconic business place maybe should call it a day.
Well,
Have you said that to yourself?
no, I do not. I don't know how to. I don't know how to. It's not in my DNA. All right?
Okay.
So, with that, I am saying to you, I will continue to plow upward and onward until my coffin board knocks.
Well, now, it goes back to what I said earlier, the kind of impact that these crime and criminal activities have on our community. The Stanley Way the matter of an iconic business on the island of Nevis. And it has been a place where some of the most fiercest of conversation and discussions have taken place right under that mango tree. And I am almost certain that many policies were formulated right under that mango tree. And it must, at this point, Mr. Stanley is perhaps correct, where the owners are now have sit back and pause and wonder, is it worth it? And that is the kind of impact and effect that these kind of activities are having. Today or yesterday it was that particular establishment. We have known of many other establishments who would have been affected and persons would have continued. But it is creating pause now in many persons' mind. Well, do I need to persist with this? Is it worth it? Yes, they do have a following, and from what I'm hearing on St. Kitts, one of the victims was a popular business person as well, creating again a sense of pause, creating again a sense of concern and unease in our community. And those are the kind of impact that we are seeing with these kind of activities in our community. And we have to find a way to quell this. I believe that we have sought to try a number of different approaches. Stanley spoke about the peace program. Rightly or wrongly, it was heavily criticized at some point. We have seen some success there. Was it a perfect program? Absolutely not, because nothing is perfect. Right? Did we see some tangible reduction? Perhaps, and absolutely that we did. But was that the only avenue for us to bring about a final solution in this matter? I don't think it was, but I think it was a start and an initiative that helped to quell that. So, as I said earlier, all hands need to be on deck, and there really ought not to be any blame game pointing at you or me or them or he or she to say that it's your fault, it's you in the seat, so fix it. All of us. It is all of our problem.
Well, certainly in Nevis we can't afford that type of stuff, to be quite honest. I see business, people are very ambitious. I see a lot of business happening in Nevis. They're not doing very well, trust me, but it's happening. I see.
How do you know they're not doing well? They tell you so?
I'm talking to a lot of people. No. Trust me. I mean, if you look at the dynamics here in Nevis in terms of the population and everything, but Nevis is full of beautiful business places, and a lot of them are not active. Really, I mean, I can point out about 3 places, and you wonder why such beautiful places. Nothing is happening here. But yes, it have impact in the past in a major way. The nightlife and the going out at evenings, that has been really, slowed down in a big way here in Nevis from the previous wave of crime. And so, these type of activity, this type of criminal activity does impact. I'm concerned in a big way about Nevis because you asked a question, Mr. Brand, but I'm a businessman too, and I speak to a lot of people who is in business, and I speak to a lot of people who want to go into business, because of whatever reason. It's not really easy, especially when it depends on the night life, kind of enterprises. It's not really easy. I mean, you go on Main Street and you see some people, there in the area of Grove Park and so on Saturday evenings or whenever. But there are some nice places in the countryside, sometimes on the beach and so forth, and they find it difficult to really. They're having a hard time, and one of the reasons is because they doesn't open at evenings, because they doesn't have the patron at evenings, because people are afraid to go out. I mean, that has started to change, but now with this new wave, I think it's going to impact in a very serious way, and we can't afford that, especially here in Nevis. I'm a keen observer of what goes on in terms of small businesses. A lot of people are getting into the little food business here and there. None of them is doing really excellent that they can raise a flag in a big way. They are still, almost struggling in a sense. But we appreciate them as onlookers, because they contribute to the whole development of the people and the economy. And of course, we want to see a lot more people in business, because we want to see government be a little more, smaller in a sense, and people are more free to express themselves when they find themselves, in self-employment and so. And I think the crime has really impact on that. And as I said, I've seen some improvement, but just as the improvement is taking place, we start seeing this again. I mean, in the previous government, there was this crime initiative, and it slowed down quite a bit. But obviously, they didn't arrive at a solution. Otherwise, it could not have just started grow again so easy, so fast, so rapidly. And so, yes, everybody is saying all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Sometimes I feel like those, because they are some more responsible, than others.
Absolutely.
And they themselves want to throw their hand up in the air and invite everybody to. But I'm still looking at them, the policymakers are the one, to me, who have the foremost responsibility. And I can't help but looking at them to see what is the other move. I mean, under the previous government, crime, a lot of things was all this killing was partially eliminated, it looks like. Is it because of some policies that is not happening under this new government? Or is it because those policies was implemented in a kind of way that it was not really point towards solving the problem, but actually accommodating those who have been creating the problem, and therefore they ceased doing what they were doing. Because believe it or not, we talk about the peace program, the population or the number of gangsters have increased because of the peace program. I know there are people who, I know they're not in any gang, but they are applying for the money. They are applying for the money. No, they are not in no gang, but they are applying for the money. And the minute this guy knows that that guy is getting money, that guy is automatically a part of the gang curriculum. And I've seen that peace program that we have now increased the number of people who can be called gangsters. A lot of people are not thinking that way, but I know I can call about 3 or 4 individuals who I know who are working, and some of them were turned down because they found out, okay, you're working up the way you want money for. But there are people who are willing to sign in simply because of the money, and then automatically, well, not automatically, they are now seen by those who are truly gangsters as a part of the showcase, as a part of it all. And what it looks like to me, the peace program have expanded the gangsterism, because more numbers were seeking to get money and find themselves now on one side or the other, or they are perceived to be on one side or the other. Does that make sense?
Well, you said that they're not part of the gangsterism in your opening comment.
Yes.
But then...
but they are applying for the money.
You now mentioned they are somewhat...
Gentlemen, let me do something. Let me get a break, and I'll play the comment on the address. It's very short by the Prime Minister, which he did today, and then you can comment on the flip side of it. This is Talk That Get Results with the Honorable Spencer Brand, Conrad Nile Library, Edric W. Stanley. Your phone calls a little later on 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. We'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results. As I indicated, we'll now go to the Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But just for the folks who may have joined us late and not abreast of the situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis, last week we had a tally of 12 homicides. And then there was 13 and 14, and then there was 15, and then is now 16 in the space of a couple of days. And it is against this backdrop that the Prime Minister issued this.
Fellow citizens and residents, our Federation has been shaken by the recent upsurge in gun violence, from reports, a majority of which are linked to gang-related crimes highly concentrated in the community of Central Bastia. As Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, I express my sincere regrets and deepest condolences to the families of those who have succumbed to violent crimes and who are in bereavement at this time. I also share the concerns of our communities and the nation as a whole. Each life is precious. Every endeavor should be made to preserve life and maintain the safety of our people. Crime reduction requires the input and efforts of all of us. I therefore appeal to the general public to cooperate with the security forces. Immediately, the security forces will implement the following. 1. Increased security presence in our communities through various methods. 2. Further engagement of regional and international security experts to work along with our forces. 3. Strengthening of the intelligence capabilities of the security forces. 4. Expansion of the CCTV infrastructure island-wide. And 5. Enhancement of evidence gathering capabilities to ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. The High Command of the Police Force will hold a press conference tomorrow to give more detail on these initiatives to the general public. The Cabinet has also agreed to table legislation in the National Assembly to increase the penalty for illegal firearms offences from 15 to 25 years in prison. I reassure you that our security forces will be unrelenting in working collaboratively in their obligation to preserve law and order in our Federation. Our streets must remain safe so that the law-abiding citizens and residents of our Federation can enjoy their peace and tranquility. Your government believes in providing a second chance to our citizens and residents who have fallen afoul of the law. However, it cannot be a second opportunity to repeat criminal activity. The present upsurge in criminal activity is a natural and direct result of the monetization of crime management. Similar methods were tried and failed in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Mexico, Haiti, and El Salvador. In every occasion, it resulted in what we are seeing right now in our Federation. Contrary to the propaganda peddled in social media by irresponsible messiahs, the Labour Party administration did not stop the peace program. However, your government, on taking office, began and continues to be committed to the reformation of the program with rehabilitation at its core. I therefore appeal to the young men and women to move forward as law-abiding citizens with respect for the rights and livelihoods of others. I have commissioned the National Task Force to take the lead on a behavior changing initiative, crime and violence as a public health issue. This is a more scientific, sustainable and holistic approach to crime fighting, which includes dealing with the issue of violence from a public health perspective. This is a multi-pronged approach built on several pillars that draw on the knowledge and expertise of stakeholders from multiple disciplines to implement a plan of action designed to sustain a culture of non-violence throughout the Federation. Our country wraps our arms around all the families who have lost loved ones to gun violence, whether recent or in the distant past. But our thoughts and prayers are not enough. They are not enough to erase the grief. They are not enough to subdue the anger. They are not enough to prevent such acts from happening again. We have to work together at all levels of governance, as well as throughout all communities and households, to do more to stop the destruction of human lives in our beautiful twin island nation, and we will succeed together. Once again, I urge all of us to bring about the positive change we want to see in our country. May God bless the memories of those who recently lost their lives. May God give comfort to their families as they navigate this trying time. And may God bless our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and keep us safe. .
Okay, so that was the Prime Minister. In case you missed it today, you heard him now. Did he express anything which might add or subtract to what you have said or suggestions you have made?
Well, I would say that he has comprehensively covered all the bases. At the same time, we have to see the implementation of some of the policies and to see the effectiveness of the practical application.
Such as what?
The implementation of security forces traversing the entire islands.
Okay. Anything new that you hadn't seen before?
And also the increase in CC cameras throughout the expansion of St. Kitts and Nevis.
So that policy that was mentioned, you are hopeful that it will help stem the tide that we have, put in cameras across the whole island,
and also the increased penalty.
Walk with me, one thing at a time. So you feel that that initiative, put in cameras across the whole island, will help stem the tide? Not totally, but will help.
Every bit helps.
Okay. Do we have cameras on a certain segment of the island?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know to what degree we are getting success from them?
No.
You don't know?
I don't know, simply because I have not checked.
Right. You get the feeling that were we to be getting great success from them, you would have heard about it?
We have heard some successes, maybe not directly.
So the truth is that you have heard of great successes from the cameras that we have so far?
Well, I'm not going to say great successes. I'm not going to describe it that way. But we have heard from the former commissioner statistics regarding the reduction in the number of murders and the number of crimes, as the case might be.
So you have heard from the former commissioner as a consequence of the cameras across the island or in the areas, we have had a reduction in the crime.
Not only the cameras.
No.
But the intervention of the security forces.
Yeah, but I was dealing with one thing. Keep in mind I'm slow, you know. So what I do one thing at a time.
But don't pin me down on the cameras only.
About not pinning you down, I'm just taking the different steps and to see what success we can get with one, and then the other, and then the other, and then we may have a wholesome approach. That's all I'm trying to do.
Continue.
Right, so you have heard a report from the former commissioner, meaning Commissioner Brandy?
That is correct.
That as a consequence of cameras across the island or wherever they are,
you trying to pin me down on the camera aspect. And I'm saying to you, there are penalties, criminal penalties in place, but the Prime Minister has just increased or make a recommendation for increased penalties in terms of years imprisonment of those who are caught with unlicensed firearms.
And as a result of that policy, if that were to implemented and the penalties increase, you figure that we will see a reduction in the criminal activity.
Every increment helps.
So that means yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is it important before you sentence someone for a particular crime, to be able to have that person charged and prosecuted for the crime?
Quite, that is first and foremost.
Which,
Okay.
which brings me to that point, Webbo.
Okay, go ahead. I'm only here to fill in.
Which
Yes,
brings
go
me to
ahead.
the point that one of the approach that the Prime Minister would have indicated was to strengthen the evidence gathering capabilities. It is no secret here in St. Kitts and Nevis that the percentage of murders that we have seen conviction for has been unacceptable, way too unacceptable. And I think that this initiative of evidence gathering capabilities, we are hoping that we would now begin to see an increase in the detection / conviction approach, where if it is that these criminals would now realize that, hey, things are now being put in place, or let me not say things, but other things are now being put in place where there will now be a higher probability of them now being caught, then they probably would also now think twice of committing a murder. That was something that I thought that the Prime Minister could have probably maybe elaborate on more, and perhaps maybe for security reasons he did not. Strengthening of the intelligence capabilities of the security forces, along with the evidence gathering capabilities. I think both approaches, we can and we are hoping and we are expecting that we would now see a greater detection rate in crimes as it regards to murder. On the social side of it, I thought that his comment as it regards to change of habit and behavior, I think that is something that is going to take some time, and that is something that I feel would have to now begin to be perhaps an indoctrination from very early in life, so that we can begin to say to our children, say to our young adults, that their behavior or the life of crime that they may be leaning towards is not going to get them anywhere far in life. So I think that the change of behavior and habit and so on, I think that's an approach that that is a social issue, and I think that he would have to use the necessary sociologists and those kind of tools to try and bring about that change in terms of that behavior. And I think that those were three areas that I think, and I'm hoping and I'm expecting that we would see some reduction in behavior and in greater detection rates.
Yeah, we speak to the monetization. The monetization of crime management,
which you spoke about, yes,
is a failure. He pointed to various examples across the region, and I think that is exactly what I always try to communicate as it relates to the peace program under the former administration. The monetization of crime management is problematic, and I think that one really rests, is a serious comment to make, because as he defended his government by saying, no, we didn't stop the peace program, but they're doing some kind of adjustment to it, so forth, so fifth. And of course, I suppose the monetization that was so much a part of the peace program before, probably they would have a different approach. Not saying that, as he pointed out, I suppose people will get to the point of graduate to be, the peace program, like any program, shouldn't just run continually. There must be a point where people, become, they get to the point where they come off of the piece because they have been graduated and so forth, so fifth. He also speak to the seeing crime as a health hazard, and he said that with that kind of approach, it will be a multi-pronged fighting apparatus, for me to use that word. And but it's left to be seen. It's left to be seen. As I said, I don't think anybody can say things that have not been said before. He also pointed to the fact that he speak to the individual acting in positive manner so that they can bring about positive things and I think I make mention of that tonight. It does not mean, Mr. Brand, that it's something we got to start with from our kids. He's also talking about me and you and Stanley.
Yeah,
our attitude.
I accept that, but I think in terms of our habit and our behavior approach, we have to also make sure that we include the younger ones so that they does not get into that life of crime.
Yes.
You do not want to necessarily create or have that pathway for our youngsters to get into that life.
They must be aware of the potholes.
Yeah.
You know, and the influences that might confront them, because there are many influences these days, man. You know, everything is violence. On the little phone, all the games is to me violence orientated. An increase of 15 to 25 years if you're found with gun. That means this would work in association with the various other initiatives, which is crime detection, because trust me, if you can't catch the people, you can put them in jail for 15 to 25 years. That to me is dependable on other things, or dependent on other things, but yes, talk, and I think action now needs to be accompany all this talk that the Prime Minister and the Premier and the Presidents them always have. A short speech, but I think it was a good speech. I think it was a good speech. He said tomorrow or day after the High Commissioner of Police is going to have further things to say on these initiatives. But it was a worthwhile speech, I suppose. I think it's something that a Prime Minister or Premier should do when, within 24 hours you see, 4 murders. But it's been done before. No, I'm not a person who thinks that there is no hope. I think there is hope. But we got to work ardently. And not just ardently. Consistently. And with some degree of morality with it too, because governments would always say they're working hard, but is their approach to this thing, because they tend to politicize things too much, and that sometimes present that loophole in programs and programmings that we think can really make a change or impact the people somewhat. But to me, fundamentally, I salute him when he make the statement that the monetization of crime management is a problem. It's a problem.
Well, I don't subscribe to that notion. Of course, he brought some statistics to the fore in terms of locations, countries, and based on what I've heard, I just believe that the monetization of crime management can be enhanced, but look at it from a different point of view and see how much it may have caused a bigger problem than it solved. Now, for me again, I believe reward sweetens labor. And if you have to give a little something to gain something. In the United States, there are times when the FBI or police departments would pay informants to, that's a monetization of crime management. At the same time, the recipients of these heinous crimes, gang crimes, should be managed and monitored and managed to see the real results as to what they're getting and how effective what they've been getting in a positive way is bringing about the change that is required.
So, is it that, Mr. Stanley, that perhaps the peace program, PEP, STEP, if we were to take all of those together as we try to solve some of our social ills, that, and it's probably just a question that perhaps the measured outcome perhaps was not as did not monitor that as good as we probably ought to have.
That is correct. You just don't send out a policy or implement a policy without actually monitoring for its effectiveness or the desired results. And in this regard, I think this might be where the peace program didn't work as effectively and as efficiently as it was expected, simply because I believe it wasn't monitored closely enough, and as a result they continue, maybe as Naya mentioned, to expand the program with people who are not even eligible to be part of the program. And thus the word went out to those who are getting, who should not be getting, but at the same time they are viewed or seen as part of the association, the amalgamation, the cooperation, as the case might be, of part of that gang. So again, I don't totally agree with the Prime Minister in terms of the monetization of crime management, because I just believe if they target a certain number, a certain individual or individuals, and attempt to monitor their activities, it is very likely that the money management of the problem of crime, criminality, could be more effective than expected.
But Mr. Stanley, you are aware that there was an entire structure that was put in place to manage this process.
Well, true. But we understand, we also know that we're human beings, and based on our fallibility in terms of we make mistakes, people do two things, and again harping on the monitoring to measure.
Let me just add this in for you. Someone reacted to a comment that was made to me, and it says, who is going to gather the information? Is it the same sort of policemen? And you apply the solution, you end up with the same result. Just throw that. I'm just throwing that in. Someone just sent it to me.
It's important, Webbo. These things are important to be said. Sometimes I don't know what is going on, Webbo. I don't hear people get caught with guns and so, and next thing I see them on the road. Over and over again. So I do not know what is going on. I really don't know what is going on sometimes. Maybe I'm missing out something. But I see this happening, and I ask a few questions and nobody can give me no answer. But I suppose there is a machinery at work. I don't know if they set aside justice for something else. I do not know. But there is too much loophole through and through the system, and I think that person who sent you that mail, whatever that message, is aware and suspicious of these loopholes.
Well, but it's a valid point, and it's a valid concern that I think that all citizens should have. For me personally, I think that the intelligence capability mechanism, and I am not a security expert, but I think that should be an almost independent kind of on-the-ground operation throughout the Federation to get that level of intelligence that we really need. Because I think for us to really be able to increase our detection rate and increase the conviction rate as it regards to these murders, it really cannot be business as usual. I think that aspect of it should be totally separate, almost like a secretive underground kind of operation to heighten the detection.
You know, I read a passage in my early morning program this morning, and it was speaking about disciples, the apostles, who, when the master left them, went and did what he commanded them to do, which is also to heal the sick, raise the dead, etc., perform miracles. And when they began doing it, some people sat aside, and everybody had a comment to make. And one of the comments was, how come these fellas are doing these great things? These fellas ain't got no great education. So they started a plot to have them undermined. Notwithstanding, they were getting the necessary results.
And they had clear instructions.
Clear instructions.
Clear instructions. That was the point.
And then he had a fellow and his wife decided that they want to be a part of what was going on. But because they were much smarter, they think, than the apostles, they decided that they're not going to follow the rules that they must follow to get into the kingdom. To save time and to put it into our contemporary language, that was a classic case of them fooling themselves. And I added, it happens in our everyday living. Because every now and then, people will do me that. Edric, you remember one night you told me that a lady cannot fool me?
Okay.
But I wouldn't make any noise. All I will do, I'll go the next day and I'll play a particular song. I'll let a lie. I say all that to ask this question. You think that we're in a period of time where we're fooling ourselves? Nobody knows. Nobody wants to answer.
Maybe we in a particular time we allow ourselves to be fooled.
No, there's a difference, Naya.
I know.
There's a difference between allowing yourself to be fooled, because I see that as being fooled by Edric, and fooling myself, being fooled by me. There's a marked difference.
Yes,
Don't get it mixed up.
No.
So the question I'm asking is, you think we're in a period of time that we get so technical, so bright, so charismatic, you think as a people we are fooling ourselves? We reach to that period of time?
Well, the evidence shows.
Evident. Okay.
The evidence shows.
Brian, you think so?
I hope not, Webbo, because I think
Naya, you think so?
Some of them.
Oh, okay, go.
The evidence shows.
Webbo, we cannot be fooling ourselves not to realize that there is an issue. We do have an issue, we do have a problem, and if anyone think that they are fooling by self by not accepting the fact that we have an issue, then they are actually fooling themselves.
We have become like the ostrich, head buried in sand, and still going forward, think it's going upward. We have to be factually truthful.
So if you accept that and you finally make that assessment, how would you evaluate all of the things that you've been saying before, earlier?
Well, to be honest, what I said came from the heart, and I live here.
What you said earlier came from the heart,
Yeah.
and what you just revealed came from your head.
Well, it also came from my heart. I just said,
Walk with me. But it just happened to be two different revelations.
if you want to categorize them as such,
I'm asking.
no. They say one and the same. It's just that different language was used.
So you have different roads. They come from the same origin.
It is the same town.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, let me divert a little. A fellow was by me today, and he said he's going to try and get an unlicensed firearm. I told him he runs the risk of getting arrested simply because the firearm would be unlicensed, but he feels that he needs protection because of what happened to the last murder, I think, in St. Kitts today. Was a Rasta, supposedly.
He's actually my family.
And he believes the fellow is an honest person. Okay. So based on that, he feels that he himself might be a target, and therefore he feels he should have an unlicensed firearm. I advised him not to. Therefore, now when you speak with these people who are taking the money, getting part of the monetization of the crime management, you should speak to them and see if you could influence them the other way. Why go down that avenue when you are just becoming part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Did you get my message, Naya?
I got your message, yeah, but I mean, money's given away over there.
Doesn't mean you have to take it.
You don't have to take it, but if you can get it. I'm not saying that you are a gangster, but once you start taking the money, the other people who are truly gangster who are getting money as well, they're going to see you will be perceived by them as a gangster.
Once you start taking the money without clear.
Well, you see the danger the program had then. It's a dangerous thing.
Well, gentlemen, you think that it's important for us to have good, honest debate in the society?
Yes.
And what I mean by good, honest debate, that, for instance, the Prime Minister made an address. We played it. You weighed in on it. Some agreed with some point. Some disagreed with some point. One of the Prime Minister's supporters, or one of his persons, might go and say to him, well, this person says that that's a bad suggestion you made, or this is a good suggestion, and you should take it in the spirit of and that's what I mean by a good and honest debate. You think we should have that?
Quite so.
You should think that we have enough of it.
It's necessary, Webbo. It's necessary, because I think that while I believe that the Prime Minister would have made his address and his presentation, and while I am certain that he is genuinely concerned trying to bring about a lasting solution and resolution in this matter, that perhaps there are things that the critics might say, oh, perhaps he should not have said this or do this or implement this, and have that conversation. But like I said earlier, we have been at this point before where we have seen this kind of spike. We have had numerous programs here, and we have had, and you have asked the question over and over. Probably that may be one of the poignant questions that you have asked over the many decades that you have been doing this show. Have we been having that honest conversation? And I know that it's a question that you have asked over and over and over again. And have we? Because I think that perhaps if Naya or Stanley or myself, Spencer, would harshly criticize one of these things and say that perhaps that the Prime Minister, what he said may not make sense here or there, and then it becomes almost like some people might interpret it as a personal attack on, and it may not necessarily be that, but it is in an effort to try and have that question that you keep asking: are we having that honest conversation?
Well, like I brought to the fore, we know that in our big neighbor north, they have paid and they will continue to pay to get information. On the one hand, they will continue to pay in certain respects to minimize criminal activity. At the same time, if it is not monitored to see the desired results, it doesn't make much sense.
Okay, so if it is not monitored, you're not getting the desired results. Should you continue to do it?
No.
Okay.
Well, the Prime Minister.
Work with me.
The Prime Minister did say that he's going to reform the reform of the program.
So your answer to the question was no. So you say what? In your assessment, we're not getting the results that you're looking for.
Well,
the desired result you had.
I assume we're not getting the desired results.
Oh, right. Well, based on what you know, you can only go on what you know. You don't have the hard.
No, hard evidence.
But were it to be so that you are not getting the desired results, you're the Prime Minister from tomorrow. You ask for the statistics and the data to come to your desk. You look at the program, it is not getting the desired results. Then you do what?
Well, you tweak it.
You tweak it?
You tweak it.
How?
Find some means of implementing maybe some other measure to the program which would help the program. As
you will find out why are you not getting the desired results?
Sure.
And what if it is a matter of being enforcement?
Then you look for a substitute for enforcement.
You think the truth is that we know what the problems are that we are facing?
Sure.
Okay. You think it is possible that we just don't have the courage to do what is necessary?
We don't. That's one of the problems.
You think that we are in a zone that we are just wishing things away? I saw a post today, one gentleman wrote, and it was kind of hilarious, and you must have a good sense of humor in life. He wrote, all these murders taking place high day in broad daylight and nobody see anything. If I just move through the village or someplace with my little side chick, everybody sees. And I thought that was a real
Deep stuff.
deep stuff, yeah. Come back to having made that point. Mr. Brand, when we were here the last time you called in and we were talking about water, remember that?
Yes.
And I took the opportunity while you were on the line because the water department was making a gallant pledge and effort for people to save water, correct?
Yes.
And you're at the head of that.
Yes.
Yes. And they're asking people to report any leaks and so on and so forth because that's a policy and a strategy. That's correct?
Yeah.
And I reported, and I'm reporting again tonight, that when you drive up the Westbury Road, on the right, there's a restaurant there called Jujop's. And there is a swale in the road where you turn off. What's over there called? Brand, you should know. Naya doesn't know.
No, I don't know what I believe.
That's where my good friend. Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know where I mean.
Yeah.
You know where Rocker, the late Rocker, has some apartment
Yes.
on the left there, just before you reach what used to be called the Geothermal Bar.
Yes. You swing right there, passing the bridge.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So just as you pass the swale, you don't go across by the bridge. You know, you keep going up. But right by Rocker Apartments, you can't miss it. You're gonna see some water running there for weeks and months. Sometimes it runs for years. I have called the department before personally, reported it, and to be fair, they have fixed it. But I don't know what the problem is, but there's always constant running there. And you know, I don't like to do this complaint because, believe it or not, people in those areas, they just spite me. So it hurts me so much, and I hate when people are just performing by saying, okay, report this to us and so on and so forth. But I used to have somebody in the department who I would call, even on their personal phone and at night, and they would deal with it. So I'm saying again, Mr. Grant, that this, I believe as we speak, unless they fix it yesterday,
It's still an issue.
it's still an issue. And I keep wondering, how come that nobody else sees? And I only use that example to again make the point of what the person had posted on their status or whatever it was. And to make the larger point and ask the question, is it that we really know but we just like to complain?
Well, but the point before that you made about that the individual wrote and said, if you just pass with your side trick, everybody see. That to me highlight the risk or the gravity of the risk we're running in this little society as it relates to gun violence. I mean, don't think what's going on in Haiti can be happening around here, you know.
Don't wish it on us.
I'm not wishing, but don't think, because you see, everybody's afraid to talk. A man come in town and shoot a man in high daylight, a lot of people see, he will still go to court and get off because nobody's sure up to say, see, everybody's afraid to. I understand that, because maybe I will be afraid too. So where do we go from there? Where do we go from there?
The other point I want to make again is honest conversation. Sometimes, to tell the truth, I feel for the poor Premier, Mr. Bentley. You know, he's a straight shooter, and in approaching certain problems, he will call a spade a spade. And everybody knows that what he's saying is true, and it is fair, and what ought to be done. But they cuss him and say he shouldn't say so. But we still expect the problem to be done, solved, and then we still end up and blame him. So, I having said that and supporting him, no doubt they will also curse me too. But that doesn't mean the problem will solve, though, right?
Yes, that's where politics play a negative role. That's where politics play a negative role. And the Prime Minister just talked about it.
I used to, my mother of blessed memory, right? And everybody knows how she and I roll. And sometimes she would tell me something, and I don't know about the others. And she was very passionate sometimes when she's making a case. And you know, I listen very acutely. And then I would say, but Mama, you're wrong. And so I learned, and I got the courage. And if I could tell her that, I'd tell anybody else.
That they were.
If I felt so.
But the issue raised with the leak is something that we definitely try to encourage the general public to report. Our aim, Webbo, is to try and remedy these leaks as quickly and expeditiously as possible. Oftentimes it doesn't necessarily happen that way, but that is our goal, is to try and ensure that we remedy these leaks as expeditiously as possible. I would go further, Webbo, and say that not only because we are in a challenging period with this job, but normally we try to have those issues remedied. I don't want the general public, though, Webbo, and you've raised a very poignant fact that sometimes the general public would report leak and they are not dealt with as expeditiously as they ought to and as they should. I don't want the general public to throw their hand up in the air and say, oh, they're not going to call the water department, or they're not going to report the leak, because it goes back to what we are discussing here generally, that across the community we see these issues. We are talking here tonight about the crime, and people are seeing and they are still not seeing. And it is a situation, Webbo, that, as you yourself would highlight it with the water department, that this leak has been there for some time. perhaps it's the same kind of mindset that our people are now facing, that look, we have been having this issue for a while, nothing is happening, people are not seeing the kind of result, and they try to hand up in the air. I don't want our people to get into that kind of mindset that, yes, we know that we have a problem. Webbo, yes, you have reported this. And I don't want our people to continue to desist from giving the kind of information, making these telephone calls to try and bring about the necessary solution and resolution in this matter. Because as Naya indicated, and as you indicated, Webbo, on social media, that the person who would have wrote that post, that in broad daylight, but yet still nobody see, and people have gotten into that, sadly, that mindset. I am not going to say anything. I mean, I see nothing. I mean, I hear nothing. And I think that goes back to where the Prime Minister stressing and continue to urge our people to cooperate with the security forces to try and ensure that the evidence gathering capabilities, because I think that the police realize that they are not necessarily getting the kind of information and cooperation from the general public. But I will say to you that somebody knows something. Somebody must know something.
Well, Webbo, what I think is that if we were to attempt to set up a monetary fund, a reward that is coming from, well, it could be the government and it could be private institutions contributing to the fund, it is likely that we might be able to get information about the perpetrator, and thus we could increase the detection rate based on the information coming from the reward a recipient would have collected. If the information leads to the apprehension and conviction of the perpetrator, we don't have a system such as that in place currently, but it's not a bad idea for a fund to be set up, and that fund would lead to the information given to the police or to law enforcement that ultimately leads to the apprehension and conviction of the perpetrator.
Well, sadly, we are living in a little society, and that is one of the major drawbacks to me in terms of getting information from the public. I do understand what you're saying. It happened all over the world, Mr. Stanley. But how safe and secure that individual will be? We got to deal with a system.
You would have to probably twin that with the protection. Protection initiative.
Yes, I mean, how safe and secure? It's just high risk, because you got to keep information private. You got to protect the public, and therefore, from within the nucleus of the law enforcement and those who are receiving these information, you must have a degree of purity, in a sense that safety become the priority. Front and center. It's difficult in these, and the way we live here in these little small societies to really have that down pat and secure. People leak out information here all the time and expose, people, and going forward appear worries and problem. No, we have a very, 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 very special case we're dealing with here. And sometimes we kind of make reference to the US, which is, to me, it doesn't work. Because this little society that we have here, that nigger business is a part of the culture, they say.
You think we are trying to apply remedies to get a problem solved overnight, when in truth and in fact we have issues that perhaps cannot be settled overnight but over time?
Well, time is longer than twine.
Absolutely, Webbo. And when the Prime Minister spoke about change of habit and behavior, I did in fact that we now need to zero in on those children, those at risk, who may be developing or showing the tendency to get involved in crime and criminality, while you try to stem the flow of those hardened individuals. You have to cut it off at that early age and change their mindset. And it is and will have to be a home approach. Mr. Stanley spoke about the influence of the church, the school, the community. I smile when I listen to Mr. Stanley talk about server and chauffeur. So as though he was talking about me. but it puts something inside of your psyche that allows you to think and feel and appreciate a certain kind of way. And all of us coming up I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, that influence of church, home, school, and society. And I believe that those, and yes, perhaps Mr. Stanley went to the 2 and 3 Sunday school as nice.
So what happened to the same influence from the same institutions?
It's not there as we experience it,
But it is not there. Why is it not there? The persons who are at the helm are not doing it?
Right.
Really? And you will tell them that? Because we still have the institutions. You agree with that?
That is true.
But so you're going to argue that the people who are there are not doing it?
They're not doing it the right way.
They're not doing it the right way.
Effective way.
Work with me, and you will tell them that.
Should.
Work with me. So the people at the schools, at the helm, and at the churches, and what else you said, Brand? What institution you said?
Well,
the home.
The home have to play
So those persons who are at the helm of those, the churches, the schools, and at the homes, they are not doing a proper job.
No.
And you're telling them that.
Quite so.
I think they continue to do a job that they've been doing all the time. But they have a lot of things going on, A lot of termites now is infiltrating the wood. I mean, the most popular song in St. Kitts Nevis or across the Caribbean is a young man from St. Kitts who grew up in St. Kitts but originally from Jamaica. And I went to look at the video of the song. It's quite popular. And trust me, Rebel, I mean, and so much youths follow this music and thing. The nature of the video, big guns from start to finish, but yet it's the most popular song and it's been spoken of all over the place and everybody. So when you look at the song, I think it's called Taliban. I'm not fighting the guy, he's talented in his ways and he's doing what he's doing. But, I mean, the criminality that really shines from that, it's influencing the youth. It's doing more to the youth than the church can do to the youth, it looks like. And so there are such things that are infiltrating those institutions that we once looked at as the institution of guidance. The preachers are still doing the work. The schools and the teachers are still doing their work, but they are now faced with
more distractions, I say.
More distractions. I mean, that's a weak word. You know, I say termites that are destroying those fabrics and those material that we know was good stuff for us.
Well, let me say this. I have talked to a few youngsters, and when I told them about the program, parenting, coming through the mic of Van Radio broadcast as a service, and when I would have mentioned this to some, they don't listen to it, they don't hear it.
Every Tuesday morning?
Every Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And it is good material, effective material, but they don't listen to it. Why?
Let me tell you something about communication and effective communication. You can make all sort of noise that you got great speech and you're a great speaker, and the person that you're speaking to is unmoved. As a teacher, sometimes you might have 10 people in the class and you may present a lesson and 5 may get it. What are you going to study and argue? Oh, it was a great message? You got to redo that so that the other 5 will conclude that is also a great message. That's effective communication. And I think the danger is the point that you made at first, that these things are great, but these people are not checking it out. You got to meet people where they are. You got to make your case. And if you had to do the work that I had to do in making cases for everything, when you think that I failed, I'm back at you again. Because you got to do effective communication. If you're not doing that and I is not getting it, you haven't presented no great speech or no great case. So we got to understand that.
We have to find a way to reaching.
That's what you said. Meet the people where they are.
Reaching these people.
So I get weary of hearing people applauding, oh, that's a great speech and that's a great speaker. And yeah, but that's why if I don't do talk that get results, I don't want to talk.
Well, basically, my mission is to continue to point people to things or broadcast, no matter what medium it is, that from which they can learn.
I have a friend, she's probably going to laugh and say, poor fellow, that I promised that I introduced to a certain type of music. And they will laugh at me when I talk about it. And I said, I'm going to win you over. I said, well, listen to so-and-so. And you know what I noticed? They're not listening. So you know what I'm going to do?
You're going to play it for them.
That's you got to put the work in. You can't leave it at just saying, man, check this out, it's great. If they're not doing it, you got to do what is necessary. Because what is the ultimate? Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to win you over with this stuff. That is the difference, Mr. Stanley. When we either just keep talking, or we begin to do some talk that get results. You got to put the work in. And last week, we were making the point as well. You see this cannabis thing? What we talking about, how much money we gonna make from it? and not enough of us are talking about the social ills and the decadence in the society that we are starting already to get from it, that is going to take over all the talk shows and them soon, if he hasn't done it already. Because this thing has a lot of negatives in it. I'm not saying that it doesn't have the money, what you all say is in it. What I would argue, the money that is in it, you'll see it and you wouldn't get much of it. And mark my words, it'll be no different to when sugar was king. Who used to produce the best sugar cane per ton? Edric, you is a...
well, it should be Nevis.
It used to be Nevis, definitely the Caribbean.
Right here in Nevis and in the Caribbean.
So why are we now bawling about we want reparations?
Well, there are people who just believe in getting something based on their perception.
Then, based on their perception, we didn't get what we should have gotten from the sugar that came from our lands. Okay.
Well,
why you think
well,
you're going to get what you're supposed to get from the cannabis?
Well, obviously, very little, because we are not the...
Okay. So when you are making the argument to our people that we are going to get so much money from this thing, how come you're not telling them that maybe we wouldn't be getting as much, and maybe we also have to look at the fallout in terms of the social
negative fallout?
Right. That's the debate I want us to have. It won't hurt. It's just a debate. And as a consequence, it might open some of us and we may see something. And as a consequence of that, we might end up with a better deal. You don't think?
Sure.
Quite so. Quite so.
Webbo, I just want to very quickly, I know we are basically out of time. The 1st of June was the start of the hurricane season, and on the 11th of June at 5 p.m. the Nevis Christian Council will be having their annual church service for the prayer against the protection of against the hurricane season, right here in Bath Village at the New Testament Church at 5 p.m. I really want to encourage the general public to go out and seek God intervention and protection throughout this hurricane season. Based on the reports and the updates that I've been seeing, it's going to be a very tricky hurricane season. But I want to encourage the general public on Sunday at 5 p.m. the Nevis Christian Council will be having their annual prayer there at the New Testament Church in Bath for seeking God's intervention for this hurricane season. Come on out.
Well, I just want to emphasize again the monetary management of crime, criminality, should be enforced or implemented or supplemented by a monetary fund, which would include witness protection program, that those who bring forth information to a successful conclusion and conviction can be rewarded not only monetarily but also a relocation, part of being part of a relocation program. And it could be done in conjunction with other countries.
So you feel once the price is right, we'll be okay?
Not necessarily, Webbo. It's just another suggestion in the management of the monetization of criminal activity in our nation.
That's the last word. So, this program repeats at 10 o'clock, following tomorrow morning, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants